Hi everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. We've got an interesting project for today, so let's get started. Here's our project for today. This engine is a 2002 Neon RT Magnum engine. It's a very valuable piece. I bought this kind of sight unseen out of a wrecked car, and I've never heard it run. So what we're going to do today is see if we can get it fired up on the floor here. I don't really want to go to all the trouble of putting it in the car just to see if it runs. I'm pretty sure we can get it going on the floor. I've got harnesses and computers and all that sort of stuff. So we should be able to get it cranked up. There's a couple of things we've got to do before we get there. The first thing I did, and I'm glad I did, was I had to look at the timing belt. And I don't know if you could tell the difference here, but this timing belt, you see how this edge is all destroyed? It was actually on that way. That happens. These things, the timing belt, when you put them too tight, they want to walk off. When they're too loose, they walk in. So this thing here, it had been, they had, here's the tensioner there. That, if you see that little pointer there, it needs to point at that slot. Yes, I've tightened it a tiny bit more, but this is a new belt and it'll soon find its place. And it's okay to be a tiny bit tight, but these guys had the pointer like way over here. And because the belt was over tightened, it was walking off and it was wearing it. It actually cut grooves in the cover here from running against it. So I'm glad we found that. It's got a new belt in it, all fixed up. The tensioner and water pump and everything seemed fine, so I just left those. Also, I pulled off the valve cover and had a look. Everything in there looks fine. Now the first thing I'm going to have to try and deal with is getting a starter mounted on this thing. I can bolt a transmission to it and go through all that rigmarole, but I think I've got a easier way. We'll find out. Only one way to know is to try it. That seemed to work out pretty well. What I did, these are the separator plate that go between the engine and the transmission. And so what I did was, they're steel, so they're pretty strong. I stacked up 4 of them in there and bolted the starter to it, and you could see that's pretty darn solid. So that should indeed work. And we've got room in behind it there for the flex plate. Theoretically, I probably could have put one more plate in there, but 4 seems to do the trick. I mean, that's 1/4 of an inch thick, so that's just fine. Next thing we're going to do is put the front of it all back together. I've got the balancer cooking in the little toaster oven now. You don't want to cook them too much because they've got rubber in them, right? Like, don't be cranking it on to broil to warm it up. I put them about 300 and I've never hurt one yet. And it makes it go on quite a bit easier. I've got the back side of the engine all sorted out here. I've got a Magnum stubby header installed. We got the alternator back on. It's a good alternator. And we've threaded an oil pressure gauge into the main gallery here so we can make sure it's got good oil pressure. Here you can see we're gaining on it. We've got everything on this side of the engine. We've got the wiring harness hooked up. This is the vehicle half of the wiring harness, and we have to hook up a few things to this. These 2 are grounds. They've got to get grounded. And we've got a couple of places where we've got to put power into it. But for now, what I've done is I've got a battery hooked up to it, and we're going to see if the starter works. Oh, also, I've got this thing bolted down to the stand. Let's see here if she's going to crank. All right. There we go. It cranks. Okay, let's see what's going to happen here. I'm going to try to do this in real time. I don't know if it'll start. I hope it'll start. Let's see what happens. Just going to double check the oil level. Yeah, good. Oil's full. Let's run the fuel pump a little bit. Where's that jumper? Oh, I got jumper wires going everywhere around here. Yeah, not that one. Oh, there we go. Okay, we got fuel pressure. Perfect. What I'll do now is put the drain from the fuel pressure gauge back down into the fuel can, and I can relieve the pressure because the rail is probably full of air. Yeah, there it goes. Look at all that air come out. Good. Okay, so now what we'll do, I'm going to get my headphones, people. Safety first. Here we go. Headphones. All right, now we're going to put the ignition on. There we go. The fuel pump just did its little burst to pressurize it. So we should be able to crank this baby up. Let's see. All right, what do you make of that? All right, she idles. Good oil pressure. Let's see what it goes up to. Wow, that's oil pressure. Oh, now I'm going to open the cooling system and check for bubbles. That would indicate a leaky head gasket. That's bad. We'll let it settle down for a bit. So when you see bubbles like that in the cooling system, that's bad. That means you've either got a head gasket problem or a cracked head, or worse, a cracked block. Well, at least it charges. All right, let's have a go at a compression test here and see if we can come up with any clue of what cylinder might be the problem or if what's going on with this thing. That's no good. It should be up around 190. Well, that one's okay. All right, so we're pulling the head off this thing and see what we can see in there. I got to get a drain pan because there's a lot of oil in there. And then we'll go from there. It's got a non-original head gasket there, so it's been touched before. I could see marks on pistons where valves have hit before. So the timing belt is probably gone on this thing at some point. You can see there the two little smiles on that piston. So somebody's been in here before. So what we'll do is just have a look at this thing here. Make sure it doesn't look like there's any massive cracks or anything in it. And we'll go from there. Okay, let me... Yeah. Okay, so here, this is bad. See all those pits there? And you see that line there? And you see basically the same thing here. So somewhere along the line, this engine has been lying on its side full of water. So it's probably come out of a wreck or something. These two cylinders were up. These two were kind of down. No, you can see where they were. So this is going to need to be overboard. There's no sense putting a new head gasket in this thing. It won't have any compression anyway. So we'll just put a fork in this one. I want to check these two bores, so we'll get this piston down. Okay, you can see same thing over here. So you can see a line there where the top of this piston was. So it was sitting probably about like that. You can see there, same thing. There's where that damage starts. It was sitting there like that, probably with no throttle body on it, and rain or water or something got in it. Or the car, you know, I don't know what happened to it. But this engine, it's definitely seen better days. It's going to need at least a 30 overbore and a set of oversized pistons, which is too bad because these flat tops in the RT engine make pretty decent compression. Anyway, it is what it is. At least we know what's been going on with it. As far as it putting bubbles in the cooling system, I don't know. You'd maybe be wise to have this thing sonic checked. If this water was in here and it froze, there could be like a hairline crack. I had a 2.4 once that had a crack right around there like that, and it did the same thing. It put bubbles in the cooling system and it would overheat the thing like that. We can also have a close look at the cylinder head here and see if we see any sign of a crack. I don't really see anything, but you'd have to really get this all cleaned up to check. I would tend to think that this cylinder head is fine. Whatever problem it was having is in that block. Next up, we've got this little guy. It's kind of a neat little engine. It's just a stock 132 horse plain Jane single overhead cam engine. And what we did with this one, it's got a Magnum cam in it. It's got a Magnum stubby header on it. And it's got the nice smooth aftermarket plastic first gen intake. So we're going to crank this one up, check it out, make sure it's got oil pressure and that it runs okay. Then when it's warm, like the other one, we'll do a compression test and make sure she's good to go. It's probably going to run a little funny again because I haven't got a spare fuel pressure regulator. So she's going to be cranking at about 85 PSI when it should be running at 50. But it'll run. That's the main thing. It just might be a little fat. All right, I've turned on the ignition. The fuel pump did its little prime shot. So let's see now. She should start. Any idles? All right. You can see there, 90, 85, 90 PSI, but it's running. Runs pretty good. See there? It's charging. That's good. Oil pressure, pretty par for the course. Now we're going to check here, make sure there's no bubbles. No bubbles, perfect. So we're going to let it warm up a little bit, then we'll shut it off and do a compression test. So what I'm doing now is I'm slightly modulating the relief valve on our pressure gauge, and that gets the pressure down to about 30. See, I could get it up to 40, 50. That's probably where it should be. And it runs way better. Now it's warmed up, and you can see it's got good oil pressure at idle. So we'll shut it off now and check the compression. Pretty good, 180. So that's pretty darn good. 180, 180, 175, 175. They're dead even right across the board. And that's pretty much what you'd like to see. This has got it's just a normal single overhead cam engine, so it's got the dished pistons in it. It's not going to have the make cylinder pressure that the twin cam or the Magnum make. That's pretty darn good for one of these. Oh, so that's it for that one. What a great little engine. Yeah, I'm very happy with how that one worked out. Well, that was pretty fun, eh? I always wondered if we'd be able to make a little stand, a little test stand for our Neon engines, because it's a pain in the neck to put it in a car only to find out it's no good, like that one that we found out it's no good. But that other little one, that thing's a sweetheart, eh? Yeah, wow. So I'm going to take off now. I want to thank you for tuning in. Hope you'll tune in again. And until then, this is Kevin checking out from the Claremont Classic Garage. So long for now.